Please subscribe, like and share this content. It means a lot to us. Thank you in advance.
To U.S. Code Chapter 17A, Congressional Budget and Fiscal Operations. To U.S. Code Subchapter I, Congressional Budget Process. To U.S. Code Paragraph 631, Timetable. The timetable with respect to the congressional budget process for any fiscal year is as follows. On or before, action to be completed, first Monday in February President submits his budget. February 15th Congressional Budget Office submits report to budget committees. Not later than 6 weeks after President submits budget committees submit views and estimates to budget committees. April 1st Senate Budget Committee reports concurrent resolution on the budget. April 15th Congress completes action on concurrent resolution on the budget. May 15th Annual appropriation bills may be considered in the House. June 10th House Appropriations Committee reports last annual appropriation bill. June 15th Congress completes action on reconciliation legislation. June 30th House completes action on annual appropriation bills. October 1st fiscal year begins. To U.S. Code Paragraph 632, Annual adoption of concurrent resolution on the budget. A content of concurrent resolution on the budget on or before April 15th of each year, the Congress shall complete action on a concurrent resolution on the budget for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st of such year. The concurrent resolution shall set forth appropriate levels for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st of such year and for at least each of the 4 ensuing fiscal years for the following: 1. Totals of new budget authority and outlays. 2. Total federal revenues and the amount, if any, by which the aggregate level of federal revenues should be increased or decreased by bills and resolutions to be reported by the appropriate committees. 3. The surplus or deficit in the budget. 4. New budget authority and outlays for each major functional category, based on allocations of the total levels set forth pursuant to paragraph 1. 5. The public debt. 6. For purposes of Senate enforcement under this subchapter, outlays of the Old Age, Survivors, and Disability Insurance Program established under Title II of the Social Security Act, 42 U.S.C. 401 et sec. For the fiscal year of the resolution and for each of the 4 succeeding fiscal years. And 7. For purposes of Senate enforcement under this subchapter, revenues of the Old Age, Survivors, and Disability Insurance Program established under Title II of the Social Security Act and the related provisions of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, 26 U.S.C. 1 et sec. For the fiscal year of the resolution and for each of the 4 succeeding fiscal years. The concurrent resolution shall not include the outlays and revenue totals of the Old Age, Survivors, and Disability Insurance Program established under Title II of the Social Security Act or the related provisions of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 in the surplus or deficit totals required by this subsection or in any other surplus or deficit totals required by this subchapter. B. Additional matters in concurrent resolution. The concurrent resolution on the budget may 1. Set forth, if required by subsection F, the calendar year in which, in the opinion of the Congress, the goals for reducing unemployment set forth in Section 4B of the Employment Act of 1946, 15 U.S.C. 1022a(b) should be achieved. 2. Include reconciliation directives described in Section 641 of this title. 3. Require a procedure under which all or certain bills or resolutions providing new budget authority or new entitlement authority for such fiscal year shall not be enrolled until the Congress has completed action on any reconciliation bill or reconciliation resolution or both required by such concurrent resolution to be reported in accordance with Section 641b of this title. 4. Set forth such other matters, and require such other procedures, relating to the budget, as may be appropriate to carry out the purposes of this Act. 5. Include the heading entitled, Debt Increase as Measure of Deficit, in which the concurrent resolution shall set forth the amounts by which the debt subject to limit, in Section 3101 of Title 31, has increased or would increase in each of the relevant fiscal years. 6. Include the heading entitled, Display of Federal Retirement Trust Fund Balances, in which the concurrent resolution shall set forth the balances of the Federal Retirement Trust Funds. 7. Set forth procedures in the Senate whereby committee allocations, aggregates, and other levels can be revised for legislation if that legislation would not increase the deficit, or would not increase the deficit when taken with other legislation enacted after the adoption of the resolution, for the first fiscal year or the total period of fiscal years covered by the resolution. 8. Set forth procedures to effectuate pay-as-you-go in the House of Representatives. And 9. Set forth direct loan obligation and primary loan guarantee commitment levels. C. Consideration of procedures or matters which have effect of changing any rule of House if the Committee on the Budget of the House of Representatives reports any concurrent resolution on the budget which includes any procedure or matter which has the effect of changing any rule of the House of Representatives. Such concurrent resolution shall then be referred to the Committee on Rules with instructions to report it within 5 calendar days, not counting any day on which the House is not in session. The Committee on Rules shall have jurisdiction to report any concurrent resolution referred to it under this paragraph with an amendment or amendments changing or striking out any such procedure or matter. D. Views and estimates of other committees within 6 weeks after the President submits a budget under Section 1105A of Title 31, or at such time as may be requested by the Committee on the Budget. Each committee of the House of Representatives having legislative jurisdiction shall submit to the Committee on the Budget of the House, and each committee of the Senate having legislative jurisdiction shall submit to the Committee on the Budget of the Senate its views and estimates, as determined by the committee making such submission, with respect to all matters set forth in subsections A and B which relate to matters within the jurisdiction or functions of such committee. The Joint Economic Committee shall submit to the committees on the budget of both houses its recommendations as to the fiscal policy appropriate to the goals of the Employment Act of 1946, 15 U.S.C. 1021 et seq. Any other committee of the House of Representatives or the Senate may submit to the Committee on the Budget of its House, and any joint committee of the Congress may submit to the committees on the budget of both houses its views and estimates with respect to all matters set forth in subsections A and B which relate to matters within its jurisdiction or functions. Any committee, 1, of the House of Representatives or the Senate that anticipates that the committee will consider any proposed legislation establishing, amending, or reauthorizing any federal program likely to have a significant budgetary impact on any state, local, or tribal government, or likely to have a significant financial impact on the private sector, including any legislative proposal submitted by the executive branch likely to have such a budgetary or financial impact, shall include its views and estimates on that proposal to the Committee on the Budget of the applicable House. E. Hearings and report 1. In general, in developing the concurrent resolution on the budget referred to in subsection A for each fiscal year, the Committee on the Budget of each House shall hold hearings and shall receive testimony from members of Congress and such appropriate representatives of federal departments and agencies, the general public, and national organizations as the committee deems desirable. Each of the recommendations as to short-term and medium-term goals set forth in the report submitted by the members of the Joint Economic Committee under subsection D may be considered by the Committee on the Budget of each House as part of its consideration of such concurrent resolution, and its report may reflect its views thereon, including its views on how the estimates of revenues and levels of budget authority and outlays set forth in such concurrent resolution are designed to achieve any goals it is recommending. 2. Required contents of report. The report accompanying the resolution shall include A. A comparison of the levels of total new budget authority, total outlays, total revenues, and the surplus or deficit for each fiscal year set forth in the resolution with those requested in the budget submitted by the President. B. With respect to each major functional category, an estimate of total new budget authority and total outlays, with the estimates divided between discretionary and mandatory amounts. C. The economic assumptions that underlie each of the matters set forth in the resolution and any alternative economic assumptions and objectives the committee considered. D. Information, data, and comparisons indicating the manner in which, and the basis on which, the committee determined each of the matters set forth in the resolution. E. The estimated levels of tax expenditures, the tax expenditures budget by major items and functional categories for the President's budget and in the resolution. And F. Allocations described in Section 633A of this title. 3. Additional contents of report. The report accompanying the resolution may include A. A statement of any significant changes in the proposed levels of federal assistance to state and local governments. B. An allocation of the level of federal revenues recommended in the resolution among the major sources of such revenues. C. Information, data, and comparisons on the share of total federal budget outlays and of gross domestic product devoted to investment in the budget submitted by the President and in the resolution. D. The assumed levels of budget authority and outlays for public buildings, with a division between amounts for construction and prepare and for rental payments, and E. Other matters, relating to the budget and to fiscal policy, that the committee deems appropriate. F. Achievement of goals for reducing unemployment. 1. If, pursuant to Section 4C of the Employment Act of 1946, 15 U.S.C. 1022A, C, the President recommends in the economic report that the goals for reducing unemployment set forth in Section 4B of such Act, 15 U.S.C. 1022A, B, be achieved in a year after the close of the 5-year period prescribed by such subsection, the concurrent resolution on the budget for the fiscal year beginning after the date on which such economic report is received by the Congress may set forth the year in which, in the opinion of the Congress, such goals can be achieved. 2. After the Congress has expressed its opinion pursuant to paragraph 1 as to the year in which the goals for reducing unemployment set forth in Section 4B of the Employment Act of 1946, 15 U.S.C. 1022A, B, can be achieved, if, pursuant to Section 4E of such Act, 15 U.S.C. 1022A, E, the President recommends in the economic report that such goals be achieved in a year which is different from the year in which the Congress has expressed its opinion that such goals should be achieved, either in its action pursuant to paragraph 1 or in its most recent action pursuant to this paragraph, the concurrent resolution on the budget for the fiscal year beginning after the date on which such economic report is received by the Congress may set forth the year in which, in the opinion of the Congress, such goals can be achieved. 3. It shall be in order to amend the provision of such resolution setting forth such year only if the amendment thereto also proposes to alter the estimates, amounts, and levels, as described in subsection A, set forth in such resolution in germane fashion in order to be consistent with the economic goals, as described in sections 3A2 and 4B of the Employment Act of 1946, 15 U.S.C. 1022A2, 1022A-B, which such amendment proposes can be achieved by the year specified in such amendment. G. Economic assumptions. 1. It shall not be in order in the Senate to consider any concurrent resolution on the budget for a fiscal year, or any amendment thereto, or any conference report thereon, that sets forth amounts and levels that are determined on the basis of more than one set of economic and technical assumptions. 2. The joint explanatory statement accompanying a conference report on a concurrent resolution on the budget shall set forth the common economic assumptions upon which such joint statement and conference reports are based, or upon which any amendment contained in the joint explanatory statement to be proposed by the conferees in the case of technical disagreement, is based. 3. Subject to periodic re-estimation based on changed economic conditions or technical estimates, determinations under Titles 3 and IV of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, 2 U.S.C. 631 at SEQ, 651 at Sec. Shall be based upon such common economic and technical assumptions. H. Budget Committee's consultation with committees. The Committee on the Budget of the House of Representatives shall consult with the committees of its House having legislative jurisdiction during the preparation, consideration, and enforcement of the concurrent resolution on the budget with respect to all matters which relate to the jurisdiction or functions of such committees. I. Social Security. Point of order. It shall not be in order in the Senate to consider any concurrent resolution on the budget, or amendment, motion, or conference report on the resolution that would decrease the excess of Social Security revenues over Social Security outlays in any of the fiscal years covered by the concurrent resolution. No change in Chapter 1 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, 26 U.S.C. 1 et sec. Shall be treated as affecting the amount of Social Security revenues unless such provision changes the income tax treatment of Social Security benefits. 2 U.S. Code Paragraph 633. Committee allocations. A. Committee spending allocations. 1. Allocation among committees. The joint explanatory statement accompanying a conference report on a concurrent resolution on the budget shall include an allocation, consistent with the resolution recommended in the conference report, of the levels for the first fiscal year of the resolution, for at least each of the ensuing 4 fiscal years, and a total for that period of fiscal years, except in the case of the Committee on Appropriations only for the fiscal year of that resolution of A. Total new budget authority, and B. Total outlays, among each committee of the House of Representatives or the Senate that has jurisdiction over legislation providing or creating such amounts. 2. No double counting in the House of Representatives. Any item allocated to one committee may not be allocated to another committee. 3. Further division of amounts. A. In the Senate, the amount allocated to the Committee on Appropriations shall be further divided among the categories specified in Section 900C4 of this title and shall not exceed the limits for each category set forth in Section 901C of this title. B. In the House of Representatives, the amounts allocated to each committee for each fiscal year, other than the Committee on Appropriations, shall be further divided between amounts provided or required by law on the date of filing of that conference report and amounts not so provided or required. The amounts allocated to the Committee on Appropriations shall be further divided, I. Between discretionary and mandatory amounts or programs, as appropriate, and 2. Consistent with the categories specified in Section 900C4 of this title. 4. Amounts not allocated in the House of Representatives or the Senate. If a committee receives no allocation of new budget authority or outlays, that committee shall be deemed to have received an allocation equal to 0 for new budget authority or outlays. 5. Adjusting allocation of discretionary spending in the House of Representatives. A. If a concurrent resolution on the budget is not adopted by April 15, the chairman of the Committee on the Budget of the House of Representatives shall submit to the House, as soon as practicable, an allocation under paragraph 1 to the Committee on Appropriations consistent with the discretionary spending levels in the most recently agreed to concurrent resolution on the budget for the appropriate fiscal year covered by that resolution. B. As soon as practicable after an allocation under paragraph 1 is submitted under this section, the Committee on Appropriations shall make suballocations and report those suballocations to the House of Representatives. B. Suballocations by Appropriations Committees. As soon as practicable after the concurrent resolution on the budget is agreed to, the Committee on Appropriations of each House, after consulting with the Committee on Appropriations of the other House, shall suballocate each amount allocated to it for the budget year under subsection A among its subcommittees. Each Committee on Appropriations shall promptly report to its House suballocations made or revised under this subsection. The Committee on Appropriations of the House of Representatives shall further divide among its subcommittees the divisions made under subsection A, 3, B, and promptly report those divisions to the House. C. Point of order. After the Committee on Appropriations has received an allocation pursuant to subsection A for a fiscal year, it shall not be in order in the House of Representatives or the Senate to consider any bill, joint resolution, amendment, motion, or conference report within the jurisdiction of that committee providing new budget authority for that fiscal year, until that committee makes the suballocations required by subsection B. D. Subsequent concurrent resolutions. In the case of a concurrent resolution on the budget referred to in section 635 of this title, the allocations under subsection A and the subdivisions under subsection B shall be required only to the extent necessary to take into account revisions made in the most recently agreed to concurrent resolution on the budget. E. Alteration of allocations. At any time after a committee reports the allocations required to be made under subsection B, such committee may report to its House an alteration of such allocations. Any alteration of such allocations must be consistent with any actions already taken by its House on legislation within the committee's jurisdiction. F. Legislation subject to point of order. 1. In the House of Representatives, after the Congress has completed action on a concurrent resolution on the budget for a fiscal year, it shall not be in order in the House of Representatives to consider any bill, joint resolution, or amendment providing new budget authority for any fiscal year, or any conference report on any such bill or joint resolution, if A. The enactment of such bill or resolution as reported, B. The adoption and enactment of such amendment, or C. The enactment of such bill or resolution in the form recommended in such conference report, would cause the applicable allocation of new budget authority made under subsection A or B for the first fiscal year or the total of fiscal years to be exceeded. 2. In the Senate, after the concurrent resolution on the budget is agreed to, it shall not be in order in the Senate to consider any bill, joint resolution, amendment, motion, or conference report that would cause A. In the case of any committee except the Committee on Appropriations, the applicable allocation of new budget authority or outlays under subsection A for the first fiscal year or the total of fiscal years to be exceeded, or B. In the case of the Committee on Appropriations, the applicable suballocation of new budget authority or outlays under subsection B to be exceeded. G. Pay-as-you-go exception in the House. 1. In general, A. Subsection F1 and, after April 15, Section 634A of this title shall not apply to any bill or joint resolution, as reported, amendment thereto, or conference report thereon if, for each fiscal year covered by the most recently agreed to concurrent resolution on the budget, I. The enactment of that bill or resolution as reported, 2. The adoption and enactment of that amendment, or 3. The enactment of that bill or resolution in the form recommended in that conference report, would not increase the deficit, and, if the sum of any revenue increases provided in legislation already enacted during the current session, when it added to revenue increases, if any, in excess of any outlay increase provided by the legislation proposed for consideration is at least as great as the sum of the amount, if any, by which the aggregate level of federal revenues should be increased as set forth in that concurrent resolution, and the amount, if any, by which revenues are to be increased pursuant to pay-as-you-go procedures under Section 632b(8) of this title, if included in that concurrent resolution. B. Section 642a of this title, as that section applies to revenues, shall not apply to any bill, joint resolution, amendment thereto, or conference report thereon if, for each fiscal year covered by the most recently agreed to concurrent resolution on the budget, I. The enactment of that bill or resolution as reported, 2. The adoption and enactment of that amendment, or 3. The enactment of that bill or resolution in the form recommended in that conference report, would not increase the deficit, and, if the sum of any outlay reductions provided in legislation already enacted during the current session, when it added to outlay reductions, if any, in excess of any revenue reduction provided by the legislation proposed for consideration is at least as great as the sum of the amount, if any, by which the aggregate level of federal outlays should be reduced as required by that concurrent resolution, and the amount, if any, by which outlays are to be reduced pursuant to pay-as-you-go procedures under Section 632b(8) of this title, if included in that concurrent resolution. 2. Revise allocations. A. As soon as practicable after Congress agrees to a bill or joint resolution that would have been subject to a point of order under subsection F1 but for the exception provided in paragraph 1a, or would have been subject to a point of order under Section 642a of this title but for the exception provided in paragraph 1b, the chairman of the Committee on the Budget of the House of Representatives shall file with the House appropriately revised allocations under subsection A and revised functional levels and budget aggregates to reflect that bill. B. Such revised allocations, functional levels, and budget aggregates shall be considered for the purposes of this Act as allocations, functional levels, and budget aggregates contained in the most recently agreed to concurrent resolution on the budget. 2 U.S. Code Paragraph 634, concurrent resolution on the budget must be adopted before budget-related legislation is considered. A. In general, until the concurrent resolution on the budget for a fiscal year has been agreed to, it shall not be in order in the House of Representatives, with respect to the first fiscal year covered by that resolution, or the Senate, with respect to any fiscal year covered by that resolution, to consider any bill or joint resolution, amendment or motion thereto, or conference report thereon that 1. First provides new budget authority for that fiscal year, 2. First provides an increase or decrease in revenues during that fiscal year, 3. Provides an increase or decrease in the public debt limit to become effective during that fiscal year, 4. In the Senate only, first provides new entitlement authority for that fiscal year, or 5. In the Senate only, first provides for an increase or decrease in outlays for that fiscal year. B. Exceptions in the House of Representatives, subsection A, does not apply, 1a, to any bill or joint resolution, as reported, providing advance discretionary new budget authority that first becomes available for the first or second fiscal year after the budget year, or b. to any bill or joint resolution, as reported, first increasing or decreasing revenues in a fiscal year following the fiscal year to which the concurrent resolution applies, 2. After May 15th, to any general appropriation bill or amendment thereto, or 3. To any bill or joint resolution unless it is reported by a committee. C. Application to appropriation measures in Senate 1. In general until the concurrent resolution on the budget for a fiscal year has been agreed to and an allocation has been made to the Committee on Appropriations of the Senate under Section 633A of this title for that year, it shall not be in order in the Senate to consider any appropriation bill or joint resolution, amendment or motion thereto, or conference report thereon for that year or any subsequent year. 2. Exception paragraph 1 does not apply to appropriations legislation making advance appropriations for the first or second fiscal year after the year the allocation referred to in that paragraph is made.